Okay, there we go. So, we are live with our Woman Crush Wednesday for the Sex and Suicide podcast. How is everyone doing this evening?
Amazing.
Good. I'm here with our Woman Crush. This is Michelle Goldrick. Michelle, say hello.
Hello.
Do you want to, is that your phone? Okay. Do you want to turn that?
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, whoever's messaging me, stop.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. I'm here with Vinni Chase as well as always. And little Miss Chris is back.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. So, no headphones for you? You're good without?
I'm okay.
Okay, no headphones for our Woman Crush Wednesday.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I can listen it through here, so.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, Michelle, why don't you let us know? I mean, I chose you obviously for our Woman Crush Wednesday for a few reasons.
Okay.
The main reason being, this last little while, I've noticed you've been doing some pretty active Facebook posts that have been motivational and inspirational for women and really anyone in general that's, that has a little bit of insight into your story. So what I want to do this evening is kind of, first of all, why don't you tell us about yourself and what you do for a living?
All right. Well, I'm a personal trainer and a fitness competitor. I'm a mom. I own my own business, my own personal training business. I'm certified pre and postnatal. So I specialize in after pregnancy, during pregnancy, before pregnancy, all women, and specializing in regulating hormones and all of that good stuff. So
it's more or less fitness geared towards helping women?
Yes, all women. Yeah.
All women, okay.
However, I do online programming for men, but
Okay.
I do just specialize in women.
Perfect. Okay, well that's good to know. And just so that people out there, they don't know how we know each other. So, how did we meet?
Oh my God. I believe it was at the first fashion show, was it not?
It was the first fashion show.
Yeah, the first fashion show.
That we did for charity.
Yeah,
of course.
for charity. Yeah. And
so
then,
I knew you had a good heart at that moment in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got the whole story on you. I was like, who is this guy? And I was like, oh, this is the guys on The Bachelor.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, you were a celebrity. You were a celebrity. I was a nobody. So
I don't know about that.
And then we were in like the second fashion show
together
and
as well.
You were at the Mercedes as the DJ.
That's right.
And then we met actually through Christine
Figali.
formerly at Tantrum.
Christine Figali, for those who don't know, is an amazing hairstylist, and she does
is.
both of us as well. And she's
And McKenna.
And McKenna as well, which is your daughter.
Yes.
6 years old, beautiful by the way.
She's 5. Yes. But
5.
Yeah,
okay.
yours is 6.
Like mine is 6. I thought you said they were the same age. So.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
No,
We're
close
good.
enough.
Close
enough.
Close enough.
Anyway.
Okay. And just Christine is at Tantrum, which is located at 733 Dundas. Richmond, new location. So, anyways, go see Christine. She's great. So we met through her, and we kind of bumped into each other a few times.
Yeah.
And I knew that you were always this upbeat, positive woman, and obviously beautiful inside and out, right?
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And it turns out that you have some pretty incredible history in your life.
I have tons of history.
Okay, so why don't we go back to some of the first monumental hurdles that you had to overcome?
Oh Jesus! How much time do we have?
We've got an hour, and it's all about you. You're the crush of the week. So this is about anything that you want to relay to motivate not just women. I mean, it's Women Crush Wednesday, so we're trying to empower women here, but also anything that men could learn. So
okay.
Yeah.
I've for anybody who knows me knows that I've been through an incredible amount of trials and tribulations, and I can't help but go back to thinking about how my mother used to always say to me, you know, Michelle, if it wasn't for bad luck, you'd have no luck at all.
Okay.
And
that's one way to put it.
The woman was absolutely right.
Sure.
So it's like the biggest where it started from was obviously back in 2005, which we just kind of touched on briefly.
Sure. Let's go back there and go into a little more detail if we can for the people that are watching.
Sure, absolutely. So in 2005, that's where I lost my partner at the time to cancer.
Okay.
I was one of his main caregivers.
What kind of cancer was it? That
a lymphoma.
Lymphoma?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he actually ended up passing away in my arms.
Wow.
So that situation really, it was really tough for me to get over. It took a lot of time to really get over it. And get past that.
Was that a situation that happened in the hospital or
no?
No, so was he at the point where you knew that you were going to lose him, and it was just that time, or? I
think a lot of people were in denial that his situation was as dire as it was, but to this day, I wish that I wasn't the last person that he spoke to out of everybody in his family. So it was a really tough period for me, and at that point that's where things really kind of branched out for years and years, in which I started touching in on this year, where I was talking a little bit more and being a little more open about my anxiety issues and things that I've dealt with in the past and how I've kind of overcome that, but at that time I was diagnosed with depression. So I was, misdiagnosed.
Sure.
And
that happens frequently.
It does.
Yeah.
And I was wrongly medicated for the wrong diagnosis,
Okay.
Which, if you know anything about anxiety and depression, one side of the fence to the other side of the fence, you can't medicate somebody with anxiety with antidepressants.
Right.
Same that you can't, medicate somebody with, anxiety medication who's depressed, right?
Yeah.
So it's the absolute polar,
Sure.
situation that you're going to run into.
And I've been on both medications, antidepressants and anti-anxiety, so I can relate to you in that sense as well.
It was 10 years. So for a whole 10 years, I was misdiagnosed and on the wrong medication.
For 10 years.
When did you realize you had to take things into your own hands?
Was
it within the 10 years?
It was within the 10 years, and right after he passed away, then I went into a really deep hole.
So he passed away, and you were misdiagnosed at that time and on the wrong medication.
Yeah.
Which probably didn't help matters at all.
Definitely not.
Okay.
So it created a really, really bad situation. And like I was explaining, anybody who knows, if you're wrongly medicated to that extent, a lot of really bad things can happen. So I was on every single medication that you possibly imagine. And it took a really terrible turn where at one point I actually almost took my own life, but I to this day have no recollection of that.
Really?
Wow.
So did you make any attempt, or was it just suicidal thoughts?
No, I actually did make an attempt.
You did make an attempt?
Yeah.
Wow.
And apparently I had taken between 20 and 25 of pills of the antidepressants. And
of the wrong medication that you were on? Really?
Yeah, and washed it down with a half a bottle of wine. And if it wasn't for a really good friend of mine that just knew that something wasn't right, and she, went halfway across the city to just go directly to where I was at to find me. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be sitting here. There's no way.
Were you on the phone with her and maybe started sounding funny? Or
yes.
Okay,
yeah,
so she realized, something's fucked up here.
Yeah.
She doesn't sound like herself on the phone.
Yeah.
And she was smart enough to go over there, or else you might not be with us right now.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
we're glad you're here.
Wait, thank you.
Yeah.
But to this day, and you know, the day after when I came to, and you know, basically what she made me do was she just like stuck a spoon down my throat and had me throw everything up, right? So
really,
yeah,
wow.
And I had zero recollection that I had even done that. But it wasn't until I looked at you know, the medication that I had the next day, and I realized what I had done.
The body was pretty much gone.
Yeah, I still.
Did you have to go to the hospital, or did it kind of really?
I didn't end up going to the hospital.
So she ended up knowing what to do and ended up.
Yeah,
wow,
and then
thank God. Fuck.
I just slept it off, and yeah.
Wow.
And she stayed there the whole time, so it could have gone really, really bad, even with her there. But
yeah. So in relation to when you lost your husband, how long after you lost your husband did this happen?
Partner.
Probably.
Sorry, fiance, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably like about half a year,
Half
6
a year?
months after that. Yeah.
Okay, so after losing him, you went into this depression. You had a suicide attempt. What happened when you came out of that suicide attempt? Did you feel like you had a new life to live, or was everything kind of the same?
No, and then at that point, you know, part of like my actual illness is it's high functioning anxiety disorder, which wasn't you know, properly diagnosed for years and years after. But
right.
One major you know, thing with people with that particular diagnosis is that they really throw themselves into their work. So being high functioning, they're, you know, over functioning. So they go above and beyond. So that's what I did, was I threw myself into a new career where I was working at a corporate level. I was actually working in it as a national manager. And I just kept growing up and up and up in the company. And anything that I could do, like I did it. Like, and it was just mostly just to keep my brain busy.
Sure.
Right?
Do you have that perfectionist type of outlook on things? Because I know a couple people who sound kind of similar to what you're describing, where it's like they're like really high achievers. Everything has to be a certain way. It's got to be perfect. And
well, I don't think I was much of a perfectionist,
okay.
but I was definitely like, I had to strive. So if there was somebody that had a certain goal and that they hit I would always be like, okay,
so
I'm gonna hit that like 5,000 over, right? So, but the thing with me, and it should have been picked up a long time ago when I was a kid, and it should have been recognized then, was I would even do that. Like, originally, I was an art student, so I ended up in personal training kind of completely by accident.
Okay.
But I'm good at it, so it's good.
Sure.
But I was actually originally an art student, so and that was it. Like, I was always the overachiever. I always wanted to be the overachiever in anything that I'd done.
right.
So when, like, for instance, I don't know if you remember. Did you take OICs?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, good.
I think I was the last year.
So
I did too.
OICs, you could always take them over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So I took
They're the best.
Yeah, I took OIC art 4 times.
Did you really?
I did,
Wow.
and
Because
it was
you
just
weren't satisfied with your grade?
Yeah, that was it. So I
Really?
went from like a 96 to like a 97 to a 98,
Wow.
and I just kept taking it, right? Until I ended up with a
with
101.
God,
just
wow.
She was like, for the love of God, just go.
And didn't she just 2 minutes say that you weren't a perfectionist? Because you went from fucking 96 to 101. My God, you know.
Okay,
maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. And
That's
then it was you know, when they pull you down to your high school counselor's office, and you know, they go, okay, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And I had said at that point, I'm gonna go into fashion design, and if I can't compete with the best, I refuse to compete at all. Right. So that was my thing, and so they sent me to a private school to apply. That was an international school.
Okay.
And I had to put like this giant portfolio together and go in front of like this panel of people and explain everything and all my designs. And anyways, I ended up getting accepted.
No medication at this point.
No.
Really, this was just all Michelle.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this should have been discovered back then, that there was, you know, something along those lines.
Sure.
So you feel like this is something that you've always kind of...
Always.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, always. And like that's the thing. Like I would start on a project, a piece of art of some sort, and I would work all through the night. I would work for days on end just to finish that project,
Sure.
right? And I would get pissed if somebody would like break my concentration, or like I would even get upset if I had to eat or go to the washroom. Like that would break my whole concentration. So, anyways, at that point, it should have been discovered. Okay, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, something's
yeah.
a little off.
But they were just like, oh, she's just really passionate.
Right.
Fair enough.
So, anyways, then I applied to the school. I got accepted, and then it turned out it was $28,000 a year to go.
Really?
Yeah. So then my parents were like, "Did you forget where you came from?"
Okay.
So yeah, realistically, because I didn't have a pot to piss in, I would have had to have had 4 different bank loans and OSAP to be able to go.
So you'd still be paying that off right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So, but I'd probably be working in Japan. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Might help front the bill.
Yeah, sure.
But anyways, yeah. So that's kind of where that was at.
Okay, so then you decided after, is that sort of where personal training came in?
Personal training came in right after high school. So then after I couldn't get into that school because my parents were like, absolutely not, no way. You should go to university and teach English like your aunt. And I'm like, so boring.
Sure.
It's like, yeah, I excelled in English, but like, it's so boring.
No offense to English teachers, but
no offense. Just not my thing.
Sure.
So anyways, then my dad's like, well, either you're going to school for that or you're going to work. So then I left and I went to work. So I actually started fresh out of high school in with a very well-known weight loss industry clinic, and I started when it was bare bones. Like they had their first little office in the corner of Wonderland and Oxford, and now since then it grew into a multi-million-dollar weight loss industry business. But I was there to originally help it launch right off the ground. So I helped create a lot of those programs, and that's kind of where it all stemmed for me.
Wow.
And then I just went from there. Right?
Okay.
So everything that I've done as far as, basically anything that I've done, when it came to fitness and the industry, I've always done the same thing, right? I see this as my challenge.
Right.
I'm going to beat that by this much.
That's an industry where you can really do that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Perfection, you can never really hit perfect in that industry, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody else, you might look perfect, but to you, there's always that.
Now we need a whole other night.
Sure, we do. Okay, so anyways, you've discovered that there's something not quite right. When did you discover that? You've been in the fitness industry, and then when did you start the medication or this diagnosis that was obviously a misdiagnosis?
I guess it would have been like just after I had started into that industry. Then I think then that's when the sleeping issues started.
Okay, insomnia and things like that.
Oh yeah,
okay.
I had always had that, but as you age, it starts to wear on you more and more and more.
Sure, no, I know that.
Like when you're in high school and stuff, you can go for nights on end and you'll be fine, right? Sure. Mm-hmm. But then it gets to a point when you're actually working at like a 9-to-5 job where that doesn't really fly anymore.
Right.
So that's where it all started. So then at that point, that's when they diagnosed me with depression, and I think it was just kind of like a easy diagnosis. Mm-hmm. I didn't see a psychiatrist to get that diagnosis. It came from a GP.
Right. Sure.
And it was just like, oh, okay, this is the problem. Here, take this, and you'll be able to sleep, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then you would go back to the same GP, and you'd be like, okay, this isn't really working for me for X, Y, and Z reason. And then they'd be like, okay, well, we'll just give you a different antidepressant.
Sure.
We'll give you a different antidepressant. That
seems to be the name of the game for any, and it's not just GPs or family physicians. It's psychiatrists too, right? It seems to be like, okay, well, this is working well for my patients now. Yeah. Let's put you on this and see how you respond.
Hey, I've been sent to psychiatrists that my first appointment, they refused to see me for a second appointment unless I took lithium.
Really?
Yeah.
That
Wow.
is crazy.
Yeah.
That's
And I'm like, you haven't even like spoke to me yet.
ridiculous.
You haven't even given me a diagnosis. And
That's
they're
fucked
like,
up.
absolutely not.
That's really fucked up.
They refused to book a second appointment to see me again unless I agreed to
In
take
other words, as a
lithium.
psychiatrist, what you're
Lithium's something you describe.
Lithium is like
you
top of the line. Like, you cannot get off of lithium.
It's usually prescribed for bipolar, though, is it not?
It's, yeah, like...
Yeah, because I remember I was misdiagnosed at one point.
Schizophrenia.
Right.
Yeah, like...
Yeah. How did you feel when you took that? Did you take it?
I didn't take it.
You
I was
didn't
like, I'm
take
not
it.
taking that shit.
Okay, because I took it, and I felt like, at one point in time, I felt like my head was disconnected. Like, I felt like I was looking down on my life.
Sure.
And that's why I was like, okay, this is not how life is supposed to be. I'm on the wrong fucking meds here.
Wow.
So, anyway.
Good thing you picked up on that.
Yeah, sure. It made me more anxious.
That would have made this conversation a little more interesting.
Absolutely. So, anyway, so what did you do at that point?
Then I said, well, I'm not coming back here then.
Okay.
You know, every time I went back to my GP and I'd be like, I'm not going to see that psychiatrist anymore. So then he would, you know, be like, well, I can't send you to anybody else. You have to do this. You have to do that and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I had enough of a backbone and enough of understanding, and I still do, of... I always challenge every doctor.
Sure.
I do my own research on things. You know, I research the hell out of things, and I come in and I'm like, okay, so you're saying this, but you know, in actuality, it's more like this, this, and this.
Sure.
So how about we, you know,
well, that makes sense in the industry that you're in. You're very cautious, obviously, about what you put in your body for the most part, anyway, right?
Well, and that's the thing in my industry is you know I actually, after I left, you know, the whole fashion thing in the dust, then at one point I thought, well, you know, maybe I'll branch out into paramedics.
Okay.
And I did non-emergency patient transfer for a few years. Had my F-class license, the whole thing, to like, you know, drive an ambulance.
Wow.
And then... you know, I had 3 people code on me, one being a baby, and I was like, this is not...
What explain what code means?
When they go into full cardiac arrest.
Full cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
So people, did they actually die on you?
One person.
One person died.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect the disorder that you have? Or...
Yeah, like...
yeah.
Certainly doesn't help the situation.
Right, and you're on the wrong medication during this time, right?
Still on the wrong medication during
Okay.
this time.
Jesus.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so like a whole 10 years of my life was a complete like hot mess.
Sure.
For sure.
I can relate to that, 100%.
Yeah. And so anyways, then, you know, I decided that was definitely not the career for me. I was more about, you know what, I really have a good understanding of the human body, and I want to instead help it get better.
Sure.
Treat the root of the problem versus the symptom, right? Which is what you get from your doctors, which is why I challenge them every single time.
It's a Band-Aid for the most part. Right?
Well, that's all it is.
Yeah. It doesn't change
it is.
anything up here. It's just...
And that's with anything,
Sure.
right? We're like, okay, we'll give you this, and that will take care of the pain or the inflammation or this, but we're not really getting, okay, so why is this happening?
Did you ever try any cognitive behavioral therapy or anything like that?
I never did that, no.
No? So what in the end was it that kind of works for you?
Well, then again, I started doing a lot of my own research, and then I finally went to the right psychiatrist that then, at that point, when I came with my own research, they did their own research based on that, and then they came up with, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
This is the situation, and you've been wrongly diagnosed and wrongly medicated.
So for any youngsters out there that might have these feelings of not knowing what's going on, what would you recommend after everything you've been through to them?
You know what? Follow your gut. If it doesn't feel like it's the right situation, you know, don't
force it.
Don't force it, and don't hesitate to ask questions.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't just trust the opinion of your doctors just because they're doctors.
Right, sure.
Right?
Because I think in the end, it's still, the mind is still a really mysterious thing.
Oh my God, it's the most complicated.
Sure, and I don't think I think we don't know.
Frightening.
Yeah.
It's frightening when you think about how deep the mind is and the things that we don't know about it, or the depths of it, and what goes on when you're sleeping and the different phases and all of that. Like that's
absolutely dreams, memory.
The mind is the most powerful thing, and it's completely out of our control. As much as we think it's in our control, it's completely out of our control. So it's scary when you've got people playing around with that.
Absolutely. Do you agree, though, that there are things like fitness and eating healthy that can help you?
For sure.
Sure. So maybe you can't control it. Like they say, I mean, mental illness, it doesn't discriminate. Anyone can be affected, right? So,
absolutely.
But there are things you can do to try to minimize the risk.
Absolutely. And most times you're genetically blessed with that. So,
right.
But, you can take a look at your genetics and you can be like, oh, okay, well, it runs in the family. And, you can play the victim, or you can say, okay, this runs in the family. What can I do to be proactive to, make things different for me?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So everybody has choices. And it's just about educating yourself on those choices, right? So, for instance, when you talk about health and fitness and, nutrition and the role that plays in that, for instance, one thing that drives me crazy is how often kids are prescribed Ritalin for ADHD when it's such a simple fix, right? So it's just
What do you think the simple fix is?
They're low on omega-6, omega-3 fatty acids. Right
really?
there.
Is that all it is?
That's all it is. So
really?
If you plug those kids full of freaking fish oil, they're fine.
No kidding.
And half the time, like, they're eating like, most kids do. You've got Kraft dinner, chicken fingers, all of that stuff. So you've got none of those nutrients in there.
So do you take a lot of, because I know that when I was seeing a psychiatrist and I was trying to do it naturally, he did recommend that I take higher doses of omega-3. So he said the daily dose they recommend, take that for every meal.
Right.
And I found that helped. Do you do similar things for yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you do find that the fish oil is key in helping with...
Oh my God, fish oil is like number one. So there's 3 products that I recommend on all of my programming, and the number 1 being your multivitamin, number 2 being your fish oils, number 3 being your probiotics. So those are your 3 staples.
Yeah.
Anything else that I add in is just on top of it, but those are the 3 staples, absolutely mandatory.
Awesome. Okay. Because at one point in time, I remember reading that we were prescribed so much in terms of antidepressants and anti-anxiety, and over in Japan, they weren't prescribing them at all the time because their fish their fish diet was so
just gonna say,
exactly, and we're focused on beef and chicken. Mostly
chicken
beef,
fingers and Kraft dinner.
Sure, fast food.
McDonald's.
Sure.
Little Caesars.
Little Caesars.
Yeah. The pizza boxes. Are there any pizza boxes around the house? So back to you now. So I guess we're at the point where you've kind of started figuring out what's going on with your mental illness. What was the next thing that happened?
The next thing that happened. Okay, so once we got the mental illness part under control, so then I got, completely sidewinded with my next issue, my next major hurdle in life, which was, 2013 was breast cancer diagnosis.
After you'd already lost your partner, fiance at the time, to lymphoma?
Yes, that was in 2005.
So we're talking about 8 years later?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
and then how that ended up being discovered was not traditional at all. Most people, they find a lump or something, pretty identifiable to breast cancer. The thing was that I always wear like a black sports bra or black bras. Like I wear black all the time.
Sure.
And this is very unusual for
me.
It's
an exception.
we were feeling summery today.
Yeah.
So I branched out.
Thank you for that.
Well, no problem.
Yes.
And so anyways, Lord only knows how long it was going on before it was actually discovered. So I actually had an event to go to. It was a wedding, and I went out and bought a neutral colored bra specifically for the dress that I was wearing. When I got back from the event, horrified, when I took the bra off, it was full of blood.
Oh.
Really?
Oh wow.
Really?
And I literally probably stared at that cup of the bra for like a good 10 minutes, and I was just frozen.
Yeah.
And then I started inspecting everything. I was like, oh my God, did I cut myself? How did I cut myself? How do you cut your boob?
Right.
Anyway, so then I took a picture of the bra, and obviously made an appointment the next day to get into the doctor. They took a look at that, and they were just like, oh, it's probably nothing. It's it's probably just a blocked milk duct. And
so did it come out of the nipple? Is that really? Oh my God.
And then I was just like, well, that's kind of funny considering I never breastfed, and my daughter's 1.5 years old. So
Right.
yeah, I'm not feeling that comfortable with you're just, oh, it's nothing.
Well, especially your history.
Yeah,
at this
fine.
point.
Nothing. Yeah.
And you've had a history with doctors that hasn't been completely
greatest.
positive, right? So
Well, I think
At that
everybody
point.
has this history. I think I just challenged them more than the average person, right?
Yeah.
So then, they sent me in obviously for all the ultrasounds and the mammograms and blah 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 and all this and that, and I kept getting it's probably nothing. And when they were doing the ultrasound, when I went in there, the radiologist, she left. And then she came back in, and then she left again, and then she left me for like 10 minutes sitting in there. I'm like, okay. And then like the doctor comes in, and then he's like ultrasounding, and then I'm just like, okay, seriously, like you guys are tripping me out.
yeah, someone with anxiety.
Like,
I'm getting anxiety right now.
And then he's like, oh, we're taking a look here, and there's some tissue here that we don't typically like to see, but it's probably nothing.
Again with the probably not.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And then
How scared were you at this point?
Oh, at that point I was like, I was starting to get pretty freaking scared.
Because that's like most people's worst nightmare, right?
of
I
course.
mean, I still think about like, what is it? 1 in 3 people that are getting cancer these days? Or
I was 36 years old. I was a single mom, with a little girl at home with no daddy, and she was 1.5 years old.
So you had your daughter with the man that you had lost?
No.
No. Okay.
No. So it was pretty scary. It was certainly extremely scary because I'm like, what, with anxiety, you've got like a gajillion things that are going through your head.
Sure. Okay.
Again, I'm going to quote my mom again, where my mom would always say, like, I make mountains out of molehills. And that's what I was doing. You're just thinking any possible scenario.
So you're trying to calm yourself down at that point?
I needed a bottle of tequila maybe, but and then when I go to I get dressed and I go to leave, and then the radiologist, I don't even know why, I'm just like, really, to this day it's stuck in my head. She puts her hand on my back and she goes, good luck.
Oh, jeez.
What the fuck?
Are you kidding me?
I'm not even kidding you. I'm just like, really? This is how you had to end that conversation? You can say, hey, have a good day. Have a nice life.
Good luck.
Try and avoid that rain today. I don't know. What about them Blue Jays? I don't know, something. But yeah. And
that
as
person
soon as
should
I
use
walked
that.
out of the room, I just crumbled. Like I had to find like the nearest washroom, and I was just like hyperventilating. I'm like,
Okay.
oh my God.
Yeah.
So, and it was a few days after that, then I got the call. And that honestly was when I found the blood in my bra. It was 2 weeks after getting off of the stage of my last fitness competition. So I was in the very best shape of my life. Mm-hmm. Super lean, super fit, super healthy, you would assume. Mm-hmm. I wasn't tired. I didn't feel sick. I didn't look sick. So I was just,
must have felt so ironic, right? Like, what? Like,
like, how does this even happen? It doesn't run in my family. There's no genetic predisposition. Like, nothing. Nothing.
It's just the bad luck that your mom was talking about.
Thanks, Mom.
Wow. So obviously you're feeling a million different emotions.
Yeah.
And that you just got a handle on your sort of anxiety issue.
Yeah.
And now you have to deal with this.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Well, and then, what happened after that was I started scrambling around, trying to figure out, what's going to happen? Like, what if the worst case scenario happens? Like, what if, my doctor was lining me up for, extensive chemo and radiation. because of my age and all of this stuff. And he's like, you're not going to be able to work. There's no way you're going to be able to work. You're going to need somebody to help you out with your daughter. I didn't have anybody.
Right.
I didn't have anybody, and then I was just like, I was afraid of like, well, are they going to take her away from me because they don't think I can look after her? How am I going to like feed her? How am I going to do all of these things? Right. So it was definitely the scariest time of my life, but that created the person that I am today. So if honestly, like when I think back on it, if I hadn't have gone through that, I wouldn't be half the person that I am today.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I mean, you sure as hell don't want somebody to go through cancer to get to that point.
Right.
But
so what did you end up doing for treatment?
Well, then I was diagnosed in September. Here's how the funding works in Canada. So I was scheduled for my OR December the 6th.
Okay.
So I walked around for 2.5 months with cancer in me, not knowing, should I take my vitamins? Is that going to make that grow more? Should I just eat whatever I want? Should I eat healthy? Should I not eat healthy? Like, what should I do? I just want to drink all day. That would probably be the best option. Like, I didn't know what to do. I mean, that was the worst because I'm just like, get it out of me. Like,
not knowing.
I don't want this in my body. Like, I don't want this in my
you.
bloodstream. I don't want this in my system, right? And then it was just preparing myself for, what is this going to look like? I'm knee deep in, childbearing years. I wasn't with anybody at the time. So how's this going to affect future relationships? Sure. How is this going to affect like everything, like me as a personal trainer? How's it going to affect me as a competitor? How's it going to affect me as a mother? Am I going to be able to be a mother again?
Right.
Because those are the other things. Like if I had to do chemo and radiation, I wouldn't be able to be a mother again.
Really?
No. So there was a lot. Like, I mean, there was a lot more on the line being taken away from me than just my breath.
Right.
Right. So, that was a hard pill to swallow.
No kidding.
So what method of treatment did you end up choosing?
I had the mastectomy.
Which is?
They removed all the tissue.
Okay.
So they removed all of my left breast.
Okay.
They left my right. They put an expander in there to stretch out the skin, which I had to go in to get regularly filled. So then I had this like one ginormous like mega boob on one side because you have to stretch it way out before you can put an implant in. Yeah. So I lived with that until April, and then I went back in for my second surgery to get the reconstruction done.
No chemo, no radiation.
So during my mastectomy, then they took my lymph nodes as well. And if there was even a microscopic cell that was found in those lymph nodes, which was very high percentage that it was going to come back, I would have had heavy duty chemo or radiation. Okay. They didn't find any cells.
Really?
In the lymph nodes.
So you didn't need any chemo or radiation? You just needed to get it out of there? Really? Wow. Yep. Incredible.
Yeah, and I got that prognosis like...
So you do have some luck.
Yeah,
a little bit. I mean... not much, but...
Yeah, I'm working on using that little bit with the lottery. It's not happening for me yet, though. But hey, I'm so hopeful.
So you ended up... And that's where I saw it. I mean, you put some of these pictures of your resculpted breast online for women to see.
Yes.
Right.
And the reason that I did that was partially it was just to put out there and just be raw.
Sure.
And
which
just
I can appreciate.
Be transparent with it. And I think that was more because I knew that I was at a point or a place of influence or persuasion perhaps that I could make it real for people.
Right.
when I was first diagnosed, one of the first things that I did, obviously, was I went home and I scoured the internet. What the hell is this going to look like?
Yeah, it's probably super scary. I can't imagine.
And the images that I came across were of like the raw, deep, dark pictures, which are very important as well too, and they have a great story to tell, and I commend all those women for putting that out there for sure. But for somebody who's newly diagnosed at 36 years of age with a 1.5-year-old little girl at home and in no relationship, and so that shit's horrifying.
Yeah, I've learned not to Google things. Google anything relating to illness, like
I'm the worst for that.
They go like boom. You're like, oh.
So anyways, then I wanted to put it out there and show people it wasn't as horrifying as preliminarily thought. Right?
Sure.
And that there was still beauty to be had.
100%.
I obviously still have my insecurities to this day based around it, and I've launched a charity event and several different projects in and around and based on that, and it's just what I got back from seeing some of those images was just something that I'd never seen in any of the photography I'd ever done prior to that. Mm-hmm. So it was just like all of a sudden I'd seen like a deeper side of my beauty per se,
right?
That
more raw.
wasn't even there before. It was just absent.
Yeah.
It's unique to you.
Well, I think it's a unique experience for anyone to go through.
Right, absolutely.
It's taking the unfortunate and making it unique, right? And finding the beauty in everything, right? So then that's where I launched, a charity event after that, and it was called Bustin' Out, and it was built based on, you did my hair for that. It was based around, doing, photo shoots for early or younger breast cancer survivors, and having them kind of come out and find their mojo again and feel beautiful again.
And how did that work out?
It worked out fantastic. So we raised money for Wellspring, which Wellspring is a non-funded organization that works with cancer patients and their caregivers and the children involved, and creates programs for everybody to help them heal. The one thing that really touched me was they did artwork classes for the children. And this is...
There's Kleenex right there.
That's okay.
Okay.
And it's where they would paint pictures, where they would tell stories about their mom, and it really, really touched me.
Yeah.
So it was something that I really wanted to give back to them, because they didn't have any government funding. They didn't have any funding outward other than what was given to them through donations or through charities. So I put that together and raised $6,000 for them.
Good for
that.
you.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Good for you.
Yeah. And then from that, then that's where I went into more of empowering women to, see past their flaws and their insecurities, because it's all in one and the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. My breast isn't any different than somebody else's cellulite.
Right.
Sure. Everybody has like their own insecurities.
Right.
So it was putting together programs for people, and the one that I'm doing right now is called 6 Weeks of Sexy. So basically I build their program, they do their program with me, we get them in the best, awesome, most wonderful shape,
that you can do, sure.
Yep. And then I have them set up with some of the best in their industry for hair and makeup, spray tans, and then I have them set up with George Polio as well too for the photography, and he's just magical in what he does for his boudoir work. So he just finds like the right angle and just works on, he finds those curves and he like brings it out of them.
Cool.
Versus like, they always want to like hide that stuff.
Well,
so
you've had some of the most amazing shots.
and it's the same philosophy but in a different perspective, right?
Definitely.
So you're really doing a complete transformation. It's not just body. You're trying to bring complete, inner and outer beauty at one moment at the end of it all.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very cool.
Absolutely. So that's a big thing that I've been working on this year. And that's why I've been doing a lot of stuff online and just getting it out there and putting that story out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I commend you for everything that you're doing, and holy shit to everything that you've gone through. I mean, people think they have it tough. I mean, look at this. Look at what she's gone through.
Well, how strong you have to be to
Absolutely.
To go through that,
I mean, at one point in time, you were going through a point where you didn't think life was worth living, and now you're battling the shit out of all the stuff that's coming your way and fighting every day, and that's remarkable.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So, obviously an inspiration to anyone out there who's struggling, not just mentally, but if you get diagnosed with an illness. Michelle's obviously a great resource to go to. I'm sure you're open to, if anybody has any questions, I'm sure you're okay with them contacting you. And,
absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So now let's get to the positive stuff, because your life right now seems pretty good, right? You have a partner, and he seems like a great guy. You seem happy.
Fantastic.
Okay,
awesome, man.
Tell us about that story, because that's kind of cool, right? You knew each other before a lot of this stuff happened, right?
Yeah.
So
I've known him. He's been in my life, in and out of my life, all over the place, but in the roundabout area for 25 years.
Wow. Sometimes it takes that long, right? For people to just timing has to be right.
It's funny because does anybody ever watch Sex and the City? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched all of them.
Okay, so like that episode and that season where Carrie starts dating her boyfriend from back in high school.
Yes.
And it was David Duchovny or whatever his name.
Yeah, he was in Californication.
Right. Yeah.
X-Files.
And anyways, so then they're questioning her. All the girls were questioning her at the table. They're like, "Well, like, how did you break up with him? Like, how are you back with your high school boyfriend? Like, who broke up with who?" And she's like, "Well, I broke up with him." And I remember it was.
Did you break up with Jim back in high school? Or?
No, like we weren't actually dating. We were just always around each other's lives. Like, I don't know. Like I played on like his like co-ed like softball teams that he would like organize and things like that, but he doesn't even remember that stuff.
Right.
But anyways, I always thought that he was like super cute back then. So, and I just didn't have the balls to go after him. But anyway, so then Carrie had said, "Oh, I broke up with him," and they were like, "Well, why did you break up with him?" She's like, "Well, I thought that there was like better things out there. It turns out there isn't."
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So yeah, whenever I tell the story of him,
you think of that?
I think of that story.
That's funny.
It's kind of funny.
So how? I mean, you kind of went through a lot of this stuff on your own, and now you're now that you're with Jim, he's obviously very supportive in everything that you're doing. He seems like a great partner to have. You guys seem really happy every time I see you.
Absolutely.
So, and this is something I want to address as well, because sometimes you post some very sexy photos. And Jim, some guys they'd have insecurities about that. And Jim seems like he's cool with it.
He's very cool with that. And that is a deal breaker for me.
Right.
Right? So, you have to be able to be confident enough to know where we're at.
Sure.
Right? And, that's a big factor for me. So, I make sure that he sees and he knows everything of what's going on, and there's nothing hidden. It is what it is.
Not at all. Do you have any advice for women? Because I know there's a lot of women that out there maybe want to post things like you're doing, or try to be influential, but they have men that are holding them back and being insecure about that whole thing. Do you think that's a red flag?
It can be.
It can be?
It definitely can be. I think that insecurity, like itself, can be a red flag overall. I mean, that's where you've got jealousy issues and things like that, and a whole bunch of other ugly stuff kind of stems from that.
Yeah.
But if you have a completely honest and open relationship, and you understand that, like, I'm not putting stuff out there like that to
You're not
gain
doing it to
attention.
get sure.
Right?
You have a different motive.
To create a message, or put it out there for a different perspective on people's issues or insecurities. I'm touching in on that type of thing, right?
And it's your industry.
It's a bigger issue, right?
And it's your industry.
And it's my industry.
Yeah, so I mean, looking in shape and fit is part of what people come to see you for.
It's what you're branded for, right?
Sure.
And the industry itself, unfortunately enough, as it's very judgmental, right? So you have to be, and I'm just going to put it out there, you have to be the product of what you're selling. Right. You have to project what it is that you're talking about, right? So it's kind of like, you talk the talk, you walk the walk.
Yeah.
In this industry, that's where it's 100%.
Good.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you wouldn't go get your hair done by somebody who has bad hair.
No. I suppose not. So life is, you seem happy. You seem like you kind of have a glow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when did the tables turn? When did the shit luck that you've had flip? How long has it been since you've kind of been on this new inspirational, motivational kind of go get 'em? I mean, you've always been a go-getter, but in different ways.
There's always challenges, right?
Sure.
And even, since Jim's been in the picture, we've had our own challenges as well, too, with the miscarriages.
Right.
So it's not all like sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
But it's all in how you deal with things, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I've dealt with that. Like, bring it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So...
that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think I just have better coping abilities at this point.
Sure.
And project that and make it look like it's a little better than, sometimes what it is. But it's just all in how you deal with it.
Yeah.
As far as relationship goes, I mean, that's amazing. And he's the most wonderful father to McKenna, which, was, the most important thing for me.
Sure.
That in itself is great, but, we all have our challenges.
Sex life is good?
Very good.
Perfect. That avoid Jim. Okay, so just to get back, I mean, the show is called Sex and Suicide. So obviously one of the main messages I'm trying to push is that consent is sexy and people need to communicate, and guys need to, guys, women, whatever, guys and guys, it doesn't make a difference. Has there ever been any position you've been in your past where you've been in a tight situation sexually where you anything like that, or have you been...
Oh my God.
Yeah, because I mean, a beautiful woman, I'm sure you've been pursued. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have started this now. Maybe this is for another episode.
Okay, biggest thing is like...
What message do you have for women as someone that's kind of a little more experienced in that area and in a happy relationship now?
Okay, I've always worked in management positions. So I've always had men challenge me, on levels that were very uncomfortable.
Okay.
So it's you just gotta have bigger balls than the guys. That's all.
Okay.
And you work in this industry long enough. You work well. I mean, I think it's just all based on my experience as well too. It's just you take things for face value.
Sure.
Right. So. What you say is one thing. What you bring to my table is a different thing, right? Okay. So, I still get the compliments and I get I guess you call them compliments, but
like creepy compliments.
Yeah, them ones.
Sure.
And I'll get the private messages.
Oh fuck.
I show those to Jim.
Sure,
I show those to him because I'm just like. Or they'll say, "Oh my God, you're so hot," and I'm like, "Yeah, my husband thinks so too."
Yeah. Right.
And then they're like, "Oh, I guess he does."
He's reading this message right now.
It's all in perspective, right? Okay. So what you say to me means nothing. What you bring to my table is a different thing, right?
Okay. So advice for any women that are up and coming, maybe facing these potential challenges that you faced, whether it's mental health. Did you get physicals every year, or do you recommend those? I know we've kind of touched on the doctors and how.
Well, I actually wasn't eligible for any physicals until I was, I think it's like 55.
Really?
Yeah. So ironically enough, the craziest story. Okay, do we have time for this one?
Yeah.
The craziest story was a year before I was actually diagnosed. I came across this story in a fitness magazine, and it was this woman who was like super fit, and she was young, like in her 30s, and she had no family history of breast cancer or anything like that. Anyway, she ended up with breast cancer, and it was like super bad. It was like a stage 4, and she had tons of chemo, radiation, blah, blah, blah. It was really, really bad. So anyways, that story itself struck me so much that I went into my doctor like a few days later, and I said, hey, can we just start some breast exams? Mm-hmm. I don't know why I went in there other than this story. And the doctor basically laughed at me, and he's like,
really?
He's like, you're not eligible for that until you're 55.
Wow.
And I was just like, I had no idea. I just thought, hey,
probably a good idea.
Maybe you were told to do it at that point. Yeah. But I was like, well, if you can do it now, why not start now? Like, why not be proactive?
Breast cancer doesn't just affect you based on your age range, does it? Like,
finding it's affecting younger women at a faster rate, more and more. Yeah. And the rates are, skyrocketing. Yeah. So I've got my own theories on that.
Right.
Sure.
Being in the industry, nutrition plays a huge part, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got milk products that, if they're produced in North America, which, basically 100% of every single thing that we consume here in this country is
cows, beef, milk.
They're all injected with hormones like estrogen to keep them pumping milk. It's absolutely disgusting, actually, the actual dairy industry, and antibiotics and all this other stuff. So that's what we're plugging our bodies with from newborn. Right. Yeah. So as soon as the child is done with formula, we're plugging them into cow's milk. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So and that's how we're running into younger cases of girls
with breast cancer.
But they're developing earlier. Right. They're getting periods at 9 years old and all this craziness. Yeah. And it's the estrogen that we're pumping them full of. So
I'm sure it affects lots of things. I mean, autism rates.
The list goes on.
So I guess it's important to keep note of the fact that as sort of generations come up, these things are affecting younger and younger age groups. So it's important to make sure they keep an eye on what's happening to their bodies.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh, and then, once they turn 18 or even younger than that, then we're starting to plug them up with birth control.
Sure.
So the only thing that they can possibly tie my breast cancer back to was a certain birth control that they had me on.
Wow.
Have birth control methods evolved since then, or are they still using the same?
They're still using the same ones.
Really?
So the one that I was on, the one that there's huge class action lawsuits against, and I'm in that.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Because in 2007, I was diagnosed with osteopenia. So that's early onset osteoporosis.
Okay.
And that was because of this specific birth control. So I had seen all these things on, I think it was on CNN. It was all over the news where there was this class action lawsuit that was launched against this specific birth control company, because all of these women that were coming in their early 30s were coming in with osteoporosis. Mm-hmm. So then I went to my doctor and I'm like, okay, well, let's get checked for this. So he puts me through all the tests. Yep, sure enough, I got it.
Jesus.
Michelle. I know. So at 28 years old, I was diagnosed with the bones of a 65-year-old woman.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But it's crazy just because
Lord knows how old they are now.
Yeah, right. I know you mentioned that it was all over CNN, but it seems to me like it's one of those things that it's not reported on a lot. Like, you don't hear people, because everyone's pro-birth control, right?
Yeah.
But there's some pretty
But
nasty,
I still have clients coming into me to this day that are like, oh, I'm on that birth control. I'm like, oh my God, get off of that.
Stop.
Yeah. So and then they do. Once they hear my story, they're like, oh my God.
Is there a difference between? Is it a birth control pill?
No, it's the shot.
It's the shot.
Yeah, it's a needle.
What about
that specific needle, I'll tell you, was actually designed, I found out in my research, because I research everything.
Yeah, apparently.
People who know me, like my closest friends, call me Erin Brockovich, because they said I research everything.
Right.
And more thoroughly than half the doctors. So anyways, that specific birth control was actually designed to be used as a sterilization for third world countries. And then they brought it over here and they used it as a birth control. And the fascination with it was that you didn't get a cycle with it.
Right.
Right. And you didn't have to remember these pills. You just have to go in every 3-4 months, I think it was.
I remember my friend
just get your needle and bingo bango, done. You're good.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So anyways, then I also found out then in my research that you weren't supposed to be on it for more than 2.5 years.
That's
my doctor had me on it for 6.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So
a little bit of information left out of that one. So, what about IUDs? Are those any more effective or healthy or no?
I dread the day that I have to figure out birth control for my daughter. I swear to God, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Really?
I'm just gonna tie her knees together, I guess. I don't know. But it's there's no options out there. There really isn't. Because then after that, after the whole breast cancer, and I can't take any birth control. I can't take anything that's hormonal. So then they gave me the copper IUD. Well, that thing was god awful. I definitely don't recommend that. That was terrible.
Okay.
So there really is no options out there.
Okay. It's just because
don't have sex, kids. Don't have sex.
I think if we're being
be very afraid.
I think we all know that's not going to happen. Okay. Well,
safe sex,
sure.
Please.
Safe sex, healthy sex,
consensual sex.
Consensual sex more than anything.
There you go.
Well, Michelle, is there anything else that you want to add? Because you've dumped a lot out here, and we really appreciate you. I can't tell you enough how grateful I am for you to come on and to share these stories.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I think it's really important to get your message out, and you're doing some speaking now, right?
I am.
Okay.
So I've branched out into some public speaking, and
Good for you.
that was a whole new venture for me. But I love it.
Good.
And
it's addictive, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So my next event is actually in Guelph this coming Monday, and it's another Mo Mondays.
Okay.
And then I'm writing columns for Simply Women magazine. I'm doing all kinds of
Busy girl.
Yeah.
So anyone I think what the message that I really want to get across here is anyone that's kind of at that point where Michelle was years ago, where she almost took her own life. Look at her now. I mean, she's gone through everything, and look at where she is. So there is hope. She's inspiring people everywhere, and we hope that she inspired you today. So
yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Michelle. I really
Michelle.
appreciate it. So yay, good job.
Thank you.
And we'd love to have you on again soon. I know there's more.
Well, I got so much more stories.
I know you do. We'll just have to save that for another day.
Okay.
But thank you so much for being here.
Next time we'll talk about my camping trips.
Your camping trips.
No.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So for everyone else, this has been the Woman Crush Wednesday with Michelle Goldrick, and we thank you for coming again. Watch us. Our next episode is going to be Sunday. We're back on Sunday with the Sunday Night Sex Show. Little different than this, obviously. That one's a little more fun, a little more lighthearted. If you have any questions, you can email us at sexandsuicidepodcast@gmail.com or reach us through any of our social media. So until next time, guys, keep it safe, have fun, and look at Michelle. Stay positive. Life is good, okay? So take care.
Peace out.
Peace out. Good job, guys. Good job.
Yay.
Come here. That was great.
Thanks.
Sure.
And I didn't drink a drop.